Do you want to build long-lasting relationships with your customer community and your future customers? Email is the best long-term way to do this. Unlike social media, you own this relationship because emails and all the email addresses are sent from your system. If you decide to change systems, you just pick up your list and you go. So today I'm doing a beginner walkthrough, very brand new beginner to Mailchimp. It's a system we have standardized on for email marketing for our customers. We're a certified Mailchimp partner on our way to becoming a pro partner very, very soon. And so I'm going to walk you through how we set up an account and get started. So all of this is going to be from the moment you sign up all the way to your first email. And then along the way, we have chapters so that you can either follow along with your account or you can do a little bit of work, stop, and then come back and pick up right where you left off at the next chapter. This is a 2022, late 2022 to early 2023 guide. Mailchimp's made some significant changes to its plan pricing as well as what's in different versions. They've really changed the free version a lot. And so I'm going to walk you through the recommendations I have of where you should start depending on what it is that you want to be doing. So I go over all of that as well. And a lot of the screens have changed. In the next coming months, I'm going to be doing more in-depth Mailchimp videos to help guide you on your Mailchimp journey. That way you get the help and the support that you need post setup. That way you can build those relationships with your customers. So consider signing up for our newsletter to get notified when those videos come out. In the newsletter, not only do we have the videos, but there's other articles that will include tips, all sorts of good stuff that we put in there. A link to sign up is in the description. So let's go. Our walkthrough starts with plans and pricing and the differences between the plans. Now, this has changed recently for Mailchimp. So these numbers are going to look a little different if you've watched another video or maybe was here 6 months ago. So this is end of 2022, beginning of 2023 plan costs and what's in the plans, because that's also changed. One of the biggest changes is in the free plan. You can only get 500 contacts, and then after that you have to upgrade to a paid plan. And then the pricing for the paid plan went up $2 at each level. Now, the one thing you want to know is that even though this says maximum contacts 50,000, that's not what you get at these prices. So right now, if you have 500 contacts, then it's $11 for the essential and $17 for standard and so forth. But if you change this number, let's say you have 15, then your numbers go up here. So you're just like quite a few other different mailing systems, you pay for the number of contacts that you have. So you always want to keep that streamlined and only pay for what you're using. There are differences between the different levels. The level I always recommend clients start with that we are working with is the standard. As you can see, there's many things available in free and essential, but the biggest thing is when we get down here, removing branding, it's a paid account, A/B testing you get, email scheduling, journey automations, which I'm going to cover automations in future videos. But so this says a check mark and this is enhanced. What enhanced means is that you can send multiple emails in an automation series. It's really the full gamut of everything that you can do with journeys. Versus with essentials, you can set one up that sends one welcome email, one birthday celebration, and not a series. So if you're going to be doing series of email automations like sales funnels, or your welcome series needs to have multiples, or if you're e-commerce, you're definitely going to be sitting in that standard spot. And then the other reason why I always say do a paid account is so that you can schedule your emails go out. And then the other thing I really like is the send time optimization. So once you get to the point where you're sending quite a few emails out and you've done it for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, it will actually tell you the right time of day on the day that you want to send it out to get your maximum opens, which I think is really important because that helps you understand your audience better through this automation feature so that you're sending them the content when they're most likely to open it. So those are your pricings. Those are the new changes to them. And so now I'm going to walk you through actually how to open the account and get it set up right from the beginning. To follow along, if you want to follow along with the video, go into the description and grab a copy of the link that I gave you so that you can create your own account. And then instead of trying to log in, you're going to hit create an account. So now it wants to verify my email address. And so mine is a Google Workspace account. So I'm going to open it up. And then you'll see right here at the top, there's an email asking me to activate my account. I'm going to confirm that. And now it's going to ask me to choose my plan here. That's why I started with that. So for the purposes of this beginner series, I'm going to start with a free plan. But again, I'm not going to be able to do all of the things that I would normally do for a client. And now they want your information. Make sure you fill this out because it actually gets put into the system in specific places. And so what's your top goal with Mailchimp? Driving sales revenue or conversion, sending emails to people to be helpful. So this is depending on the type of business that you have. Are you going to be building a website as part of this? Do you want to grow your list of subscribers? Or I'm just checking things out. So for many small business owners, we want to drive sales. So if you have a robust list, you can start there. And this is just them trying to understand where you're at right now. And then trying to get additional information. Are you selling through an online store, in person? Or not currently selling? This would be what you would choose if you're going to, if you're a service-based business only. And then you can import, if you're going to build your website through here, you can actually pull it in. I'm not. I have a separate website. And then if you want to stay in touch. And then you are all done. So this is your account setup page. So from here, the first thing you're going to want to do is just double check your information. You put a little bit in, but you're going to want to finish it up. So it automatically set my account name to my company, where you're at, and the time zone. So I'm not in New York. This is going to become important depending on where you are in the world. And then date and time format. Do you want 12 hours? When do you want things to start? What is the currency format? And then this information down here is actually quite important because when you get more advanced and you want to see when you're looking at your reports and it's showing you industry benchmark and industry information, it's pulling those stats based off of this. So you need to specify your industry and then always add, and then how old your organization is. And then make sure you save that. That first field is the one that's really important because that's where your benchmarks are going to be. So if you already kind of set up things and maybe you've sent a campaign and those benchmarks look off, come in here and check those. Okay, so now what we want to do next is we actually want to go in and set up your audience profile. So you are always automatically added so that it populates your audience first. And then first you want to come under settings and set up your audience name and defaults. So your audience name is also set up for your company. So if you want to change that on your more advanced, on your paid accounts, you can have more than one audience. They limit the number of audiences because ideally, you really don't need more than one audience if you're marketing to the same people visually and with the same names. So I am going to keep that the same. I do want double opt-in and reCAPTCHA. I absolutely recommend this if you are going to be putting a sign-up form out on a landing page or on your website where the general public can just come and sign up. Because what it does is it makes sure it validates them and it keeps spam off your list. You don't want a ton of spam emails in there because, again, you're paying for the total number of email addresses that you have, and you don't want to keep going and cleaning that up. And that's what the double opt-in and the reCAPTCHA is for. I do recommend, though, is if you're at an event and you have a landing page and people are signing up for that event, turn this off. That way they don't have to go through the double opt-in process, especially if you've got a QR code, they fill out the form and off they go. So campaign defaults, this will default to when you're creating your campaigns, and it's a nice time saver. So I like to change this to my name and then the company. Sometimes I put a dash in, sometimes I don't. And the reason for this is this is the name that shows up in the inbox, who it's from on the left side. So as your community sees your emails and you're trying to build those relationships, you want them to know, oh, it's Audrey from Marketing Masterminds, not Audrey, my best friend, or Audrey, the person that, does this or that for me. You want to keep the two together. Default email address, again, you decide what that is. It doesn't have to be the same one associated with the account. And you can have a default email subject because the majority of the emails will have specific subjects. I tend to leave this blank, and I'm going to leave all of this blank. And then if you want to be notified when people subscribe to your newsletter, you can fill this out if you want to. So now that's set up. Now we want to come back in again to settings. And now I want to set up my audience fields. So what the audience fields are is that when you're in that other area I was at and it shows the name and all of the fields. So let me go back to that really quick and show you what I'm talking about. So you can actually set up the fields that are useful to you and display here, right? Always going to have email address, but you might have names, you might have addresses, phone number, birthdays. Certainly want to keep tags and email marketing. So let's go in and set up what these are because they can actually be custom to you. This is one of the really cool features. So email address, always there. First name, last name. Is it visible? And then is it required? The is it required field is for when you have put a form on your website, or if you've created a landing page or a pop-up where they're signing up, meaning you can require as little or as many fields as you want. You can make it that so only the email address is required, or you can make it so that the first and the last name is required, and then they can't finish the sign up until that happens. And then visibility is if it's visible on the form or not. So this becomes really important when they're being integrated. These tags are when you want to customize what an email looks like. So if you want to say, hi, Audrey, you put in hi and first name. That's a little bit of an advanced feature, but that's where the names get set up. And then phone number, birthday, and date fields. If you're in the US, you can set it up this way, and then you can add your own fields. So you can delete these. So, for my business, it doesn't make sense. Like I don't capture birthday addresses, birthdays. And so it might be a little creepy. And, to authentically market, You don't want to be creepy. So, if you're an insurance person, you automatically collect date of birth. And so that's something you would want to keep in here, and you might want to send birthday reminders. So I'm going to take that off my list, and it's going to confirm for me to delete. But you may have other significant dates that you want to add. And so now you can customize anything you want. You can have a drop down, date, address, zip code. Maybe if you're a B2B company, you want to put their website addresses in there. Or if it's a specific image. Or you can have just a simple text field. And then you can title that field. And then you can even change the merge tag if you want. Like, it's going to automatically default to what it is, or you can actually change that. Okay. So that, as you go, you'll understand what you want to put on there. And that's actually part of your strategy. So as part of your marketing strategy, you're going to be doing email marketing. Who is your target audience? What type of information do you need from that audience in order to be able to send them what you're trying to send them? Are you going to be doing newsletters? Are you going to be doing sales funnels? There's a whole article on Marketing Masterminds that talks about the different types of email marketing you can do. So you may want to check out that article before you finish up this particular section. Okay, and then in settings, the last one that we are going to look at here is the required email footer content. Now, when an email is sent, there's information in the footer that automatically gets put in, and you don't edit that on the campaign or on the template. You edit the footer information here. So you have a message to remind people how they've opted in, if it's via your website, or if you're only doing it via a landing page, or if it was an event, and you can put all three. That's totally fine. And then can spam, you can read through all of that, but recipients need to be able to contact you. So company name, person's name, email address. This can be different. So if you want a different email address associated with this, you can add a phone number, your address, and then your website as well. Pop my website in there. Okay, so that's that initial setup for the settings. Now, the next thing I like to do after that is set up your tags. So tags is how you filter and define your audience. So you may have tags for where they came from. You may have tags for who they are. Are they a customer? Are they a lead? You may have different types of customers. If you're B2B, it could be property management companies. It could be real estate agents. Different types of customers. If you have different segments, it could be people that buy your shoes. It could be people that buy this. So you're going to create your tags based off of how you want to segment people. And again, that's going to go back to your marketing strategy. So if you're creating a sales funnel and you want that sales funnel to only go to one segment of your audience, you can actually set that up for the tags. And then when you create the sales funnel into the future, it'll only send it to those tags. So tag creation is simple. I always wind up setting a newsletter tag because my audience can get mixed, where some people, I pull them in, but they're not ready for the newsletter just yet. Or I don't want them to get the newsletter until they're done a sales funnel. So I'll tag them for the sales funnel. And at the very end of the sales funnel, I will tag them for the newsletter. And then the newsletter only goes to those that are tagged for newsletter. And then there's no one in here right now. But if I go back to my audience, this is a handy little feature. And I say, I want to tag this person, which is me. I can tag them now that I have the newsletter added. Now you can actually view who is actually has a specific tag. And this becomes really helpful if you're trying to, create a segment or a subsegment of people. And then let's say you don't have people, let's say you want to look for people, but they're not set up by their type of tag. But maybe it's the customer field, or it's if they're subscribed or not, or if they're, how they were added or their contact rating. And so you can actually create segments. So you may want to, you don't have to create your segments right away, but I just want to show it to you quickly where, again, you can segment even if it's not a tag. And here are all the different things that you can segment by. So those are the contact information, but you can do date added, sign up source, and then when you get into this, it's campaign activity, landing page activity, all sorts of activities. So if I do sign up source was admin ad, and I preview this, I'll show up. And it's because it's based off of this field and nothing else. So if you kind of know what that's going to look like ahead of time, you can set some of these up, but you actually may just want to wait until you get your audience in place. So let's talk about putting your audience in. That's what you're going to do next. So in here you have where you can add contacts. You can add a single subscriber, or you can import a large amount of contacts. You may have a list from an existing system. You may have your customer list where they have opted in to get communications from you. That's totally fine. You can import from different services, which 99% of the time you're not going to have. Most of the time you're going to upload a file, or you can actually copy and paste. So if you have it in something that's not a CSV or text file, you can do this option. So I'm going to do this, and I'm just grabbing a list that I have. That has a lot of fields. And now it organizes. So select the status subscribed. And then you always want to do update in existing contacts, unless you have, like in this account, you have like 0 people. But I always like to just check it as a matter of course. How do you want to tag them? Do you want to tag them with one of your existing tags, which is really nice? But if you say, you can actually add new tags on the fly here, which is kind of cool. And then you can actually choose from popular tags as well. Now we go to the matching section. And then it's looking at your file and predetermined what fields it can recognize. So it recognized a first name, it recognized a last name, it didn't recognize the others. It didn't recognize executive title, but if you wanted to pull in their title, you can. It recognized the phone number, of course, the email address. The email address is the most important. It's not going to pull anyone in unless there's actually an email address. But let's say I want to add company name. I can actually then click on that and then say this field is company name. But you notice that it's not part of anything in here because maybe I didn't add it originally. Not to worry, you can actually create a new field here. And then I'm selecting as text and then confirm, and now it's mapped. And then I can map address. There's a bunch of other information in here. I can do it separate, individually. I can add their websites. And then there's a bunch of other stuff in this file that I just don't even need. So now that I have the fields that I want mapped, I'm going to finalize the import. It's going to tell me how many there are, and then what I chose. And then it's going to do its thing. And then depending on how large or how small it is, it's going to take time for it to upload. So based on that, I am going to go back, let it do its thing, and then move on to the next step, which is going to be our last step in setup. And that's just adding your logo. to your area of files. So you can upload your own images. They have a creative assistant where you create images in here. It's okay. But what I really like is I like doing that kind of stuff in Canva and then importing it in because there's actually an integration between the two. But just to start, again, getting you started is just add and identify your logo. So I'm going to upload my logo. I'm going to do the full logo. And now it knows that is my logo. It will, in certain templates, the way things are set up, it will actually pre-add your logo for you so you don't have to constantly always add it. Okay, so now that pretty much has finished up the setup portion. And now we can move into creating your email template. I always like to start out with creating the email template first because then when you're creating campaigns, you actually have something to start from. So it's a brand new account, so I don't have anything purchased. You can go through and purchase one, but I think what they have available for free is actually really good. So you can start with a layout and then add your own colors and pictures and everything, and they have all different types of layouts. They have the featured at the top, education-based, probably a good one for newsletters, and then you have your basics down here, right? You'll notice that said upgrade to use for these guys. Again, when you're on the standard plan, all of this stuff is available to you. And then you get a basic, you get the one column, and then if you want to do anything fancy, you got to upgrade. I think upgrading for that kind of stuff is great. And then you can have something that is a predetermined theme, which is also nice. Again, you only get certain ones with the free account, but actually there's quite a few. So if there's an existing style or color palette that exists here, you can start with that. One of the things is if I have a client who has done a dark theme website or a black background, then regardless of what we're doing, I'll start with the spruce just because it's all set up that way, or something like this. So I'm going to use the basic layout to start, right? One column, easy peasy. And you can get fancy as you go. And so you'll notice that because I put in my logo, it actually put the logo in here. And so I'm going to design a newsletter template. So I like having the logo at the top, but I also, so when I do a newsletter, I'll have the logo, and then I usually will add some text. Make it a heading. And then I can change that font. But what you may want to do is when you're in settings, you can also change the columns. You can specify your body fonts, but I can also change this if I want to. And then you're limited to the certain fonts that they give you here, and you can't add more. The reason for this is because the person receiving it has to have a certain number of, they actually have to have the font or something similar available on their side. If they don't, it's going to default to something else. So these are the most common fonts that pretty much all of us have, and it gives you the best chance of your fonts being used. I'm going to save, I'm going to close that, and then I like to add the image of the newsletter article that I'm writing. So I put in an image, I have a placeholder. If you notice, I have no file, so now I can actually upload a file. And I'm just going to use one of my cover art pictures that I did for a previous email. I'm going to pop that in here. And then once it's in the My Files section, it's available to you. And I can change the display size if I choose to. I can link to it, which is cool. Meaning that if they click on the picture, they go to the link. So the link I'll put in here normally is the link to the blog article. And then down here, I like to put in the name of the article that's in the newsletter. So, and then I put the beginning of the article blurb so they can start reading it, get an understanding for what it is. And then I always like to add a read more button. And I always add the deep link to the article here. I don't send them to a main page. I think by adding the deep link, you really encourage them to read. And then, you know, it supports what they're trying to do, and makes it more likely that when you send another email in the future that they're going to want to open that because they'll understand that, oh, it's so easy for me to read that. So, you know, make sure you're being very specific with your links. Now, you can change the default colors. So if you don't want the button to be that color, you can edit this. And then when you go into style, you can actually change the button color. So maybe I want that to be a deeper blue. Normally I would actually put my hex color numbers in there, but for the purposes of this, I'm just going to do the color selection. But you can actually put in your hex or RGB numbers. And then you can also change the color of the text as well. So if you're going with a lighter color, you can go with a darker text, and you can modify fonts and spacing and padding to achieve what you're looking for. And you can either round the corners more if you like, or even less so if you want to go square. So you have a lot of different options. And then if you have other existing button blocks, right, you can actually apply this so that it saves it going into the future. Okay, so I like the way that that looks. And what's nice is now that I'm setting this up as a template, when I go to do my next newsletter, I can leave this alone, change this information out, change out my link, and then I'm done. The other thing I like to do in a newsletter is I like to put one article in there so that the article and the titles match, and then maybe add a call to action about your business, right? What things do you want them to know? Do you want to do a special? Do you want them to know about different services that you offer that may be related to the article? So again, this is where things can be customized totally to what you want. So again, you're going to add an image here. I'm just going to use the same one that I uploaded. And then now you can actually have text to go with it, but you can actually change this around. So if you go into settings, right now the text is at the bottom and the image is aligned to the left. But if let's say I want to put my text on the right, now it changes it. And I can actually make them the same. And then I can come in here. I can change my font if I want. My color of the font is this color here, but I can now change the background. And let's say I want to do kind of that same color as my read button. I can certainly do that. And my picture is there, so I can actually add a link if I want to a specific product or service. And then I can add my text, which for this call to action, sign up for email marketing newsletter. And then if that's really my only text, now is when you can start resizing things. Actually, you may want to call it a heading 2. That's going to change some things up. You can change the color back. And now you can mess with it a little bit. If you want it down a little bit further, you can play with spacing there. And so let's say that that's it. You want to go with something very simple, and you're all done. Now you want to make sure that you actually put in your different icons here. So if you want to put your Facebook page in, make sure you put your specific URL in, your website. And then if you don't have a Twitter account, you can delete it. And then if you have others, like let's say you want to put your email address in, you can certainly do that. Or let's say you have Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. They have all the major guys in here. Just make sure you go in and edit those links so that it takes them directly to your social profile. The other thing you can do here too is change the layout and change the icon style. So maybe you don't want those colors. Maybe you want something a little more subdued, right? I'm going for a minimalist look here. I want something a little bit more subdued. And maybe I want them just to be a little bigger because there's only a few of them. Or maybe I want them to stack differently. You know, you've got different options here. And then you come into the footer. So this is where setting that stuff up and the settings comes in because it actually pulls from those fields. So copyright for the current year, list your company name, all rights reserved, your information in there, the description, all that good stuff. You know, changing how you want to receive things, and then rewards. If you have a paid account, when you delete this, the Mailchimp rewards logo will not show up here. And then what I like to do next is I like to preview and test it. So this is what it looks like on desktop. Looks pretty good. And then I always like to see what it looks like on mobile because a lot more people, more and more now, are viewing emails in mobile. So you'll notice it changed how things are stacking here. So just make sure you're okay with that. And then inbox preview is a advanced feature. But the nice thing is what you can do is you can actually send yourself a test email and preview it in your own inbox just to see how everything is going to come through. So save and exit, and now you name it. Newsletter template. So you can have more than one template. Maybe you have a generic template where you've got your headers and your footers set up that you want to be able to change the centers for. Just make sure you're naming it different. Okay, so now that that is set, we're going to get into the final piece for today, and that's actually creating your first campaign. So you're going to come into the campaign section here. And mine is empty right now, but it's going to show you any and all previous campaigns that you've ever created. And so you can create multiple different types of campaigns. Here's where you would create a landing page. You can do basic automations. This is the section that uses the essentials. But if you're going to do social posts or ads or anything else, that can all be done here. You can also organize everything. Create folders. So let's say you have 4 or 5 different landing pages. You're, 2-3 years into this, you're doing a bunch of landing pages. You have different types of campaigns. You could be doing webinars through here. And so you can create folders so that you can categorize everything so you can find it easier. So I'm going to click on create a campaign. And like I said, you can create a landing page or you can actually create a form here. But today we're going to stick with designing just a regular old email, and we're going to do a newsletter. Okay, so choosing your email builder. Right now, I do not recommend that you use the new builder that's beta because what we just created as our template was actually done in the classic builder, and you have more templates available to you in the classic builder. And that's why they're saying we recommend you stick with the classic builder for now. So stick with that. So it wants you to select a template, right? It wants to help you out. So looks identical to where and when we created your template. But the nice thing is now if we click on Save Templates, your template is here. At some point, a visual image of this will populate. Sometimes it takes 24 hours for the image to show up, but it definitely will. And now once you've picked that template, it's there. And so now you can change out whatever you need to, right? Maybe you want to add a different CTA, maybe different article, but everything else is the same. You can preview, just like we did before. You can send a test email. And then the other thing is you can switch the templates, or once you've changed this, right? So maybe you're into newsletter 2 or 3 and you want to modify it, but you forget to go back to the original template and modify that. You can actually save this as a template and you can actually ask it to override the original. So let me show you what that looks like. So you can save it as a template, leave the name the same, and you can overwrite it or you can save it separately. You can do either one. So if I choose to overwrite it, it's just going to, in the background, go ahead and do its thing. Okay. So I'm going to act like this is done, and I'm going to continue. And so now is where we get to the campaign specific things. So first you want to give it a title. So for newsletters, I like to date them and what they are. This is important for when you're looking at your reports or looking for specific information. That way, you know what you're looking at when it's in there. So if you're looking at a report, this is the name it's going to use. This is an internal name. It is, no one else sees this but you and anybody else inside of Mailchimp. The client does not see this. What they see is the subject, which we'll get to in a minute. So you can do all subscribers, 268, and you can edit this, but you can actually send it to a segment or a tag. So now all that work we did to set up segments and tags will work. So if I put in newsletter, it's going to change it to only people that have newsletter or property managers. And then there's some pre-built segments which you can use, or if you have your own segment, you can actually build a segment on the fly here. If you do want to personalize the to field, they do recommend it, but just make sure you have your first and last name fields filled out, and then it changes things. So you can say, okay, first name field, boom. There's your merge tag. You can edit who it's from. It pulled that from the settings, so I don't have to worry about it. If for some reason you didn't do that, forgot to do it, or it's wrong, you can simply go in here and you can change both of those. And then the subject. Here is where you want to follow the parameters that they're recommending here. They have a subject wizard because the subject is what gets people to open the email. When you write one here, they're going to critique it, right? And you want to read these based off of best practices. So mine is short. It's less than 9 words. I could use an emoji if I wanted to. But they're suggesting no more than 1, which I agree with. And then space is limited, 60 characters. And then they're telling me that I got my point across without using punctuation marks. You don't need punctuation marks in here. Sometimes you want to do things like this, which is okay. You feel like you want more in here, right? Don't put more in here because there's always the preview text that you can add. This is what shows up just underneath of the subject line when people have previews set up. So if you look back at my email, this is the subject, this is who it's from, this is the subject in bold, and then this is the preview, right? So you can see you get all 3 of those, and then when they click on it, it actually shows them more. The point is to get them to click on it, and this is the important things. Once you save that, Your content is already done, but if you need to re-edit your design, you can do this. Or if you want to send a test, you can do that here. Now, if you have a free account, your only option is to send right now or to finish it later. You can leave it in draft form and come back to it. When you get to an essentials plan or greater, you have the ability to schedule. You can pick the date. This is where send time optimization comes in, which I really like. Or if you want, you can send it. You can decide what time you want to send it. All of this is coming up and telling me I can't do it because I'm on the free plan. I always like scheduling these because depending on what your business is and what you're doing, certain days of the week are going to be better for you than others. So if you are generally a consumer retailer business and you're trying to sell people stuff, right, that is not related to what they do for work, your best bet is to send things on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, right? Because that's when people get into that mindset. And if they see it in their inbox, they're more likely to open it. If you're a B2B, then you want to send that probably Tuesday or Wednesday or Monday, because they're in work mode. And then times will be specific. And that's where I like time optimization, because it's going to pick different times. And then based off of open rates, it's going to lock in on a time for you. So then because here I'm going to click finish later, it's in draft form. Once it actually gets sent, you're going to have access to the report so that you can see how many opens you've gotten, who's clicked through, and then if you're doing e-commerce, if they've purchased something, there's all sorts of data available to you. I will be doing another email specifically for reporting, but those are the basics. This is all the information that you need to get your account up and running and get your first email out. So if you have any questions, definitely go over to the Marketing Mastermind blog and, open up one of our chat windows and start chatting with us. Or you can put your questions in the comments below and we will definitely answer those for you. So I hope you found this useful and helpful. If you did, please share it and then subscribe to our channel. Thanks.